Hello, welcome back to another worm composting update. These middle weeks, when you're in the midst of a harvesting cycle, the bins don't tend to change much from week to week. So this is just a quick update on what's happening. In the regular totes, I am trying to take some worms from each of my bins and put them into the breeder bin. So that bait tray that you see, I use that to get worms out of this particular composting system. I'm going to sift those out and put them into the breeder bin as I collect somewhere between 200 to 250 worms. In this bin, I'm just going to give it a smaller feeding. Because the bins are running wetter, I'm cutting down on the size of the feedings in them. So I gave this a smaller feeding of just a few slices of banana, gave it the grit, and closed this bin up for the week. It's still looking pretty good as I don't see many worm trails. In the second regular tote, the one I'm trying to do as a trash bag style, I did leave the bubble wrap off of one half of it again, and that side is pretty dry. So it is working to dry out the bin because it's holding more moisture than the other bin, probably because I'm using larger pieces. I did also decide that I was going to take some worms out of here. So I'm going to treat this as if I was pocket feeding on one side to attract some of the worms out. Place the grit on that, and then that will finish up this bin. Again, the worms look really healthy. I don't have any evidence of them trying to escape from the bin, even though I'm doing a different style with it. I did cover it a little bit more with the bubble wrap to get some more moisture in it though. Moving over to the first of the vermi bag totes. This one I did also use the bait tray system in it to get the worms for the breeder bin, and I'm gonna mix up the material. It's not as dry as it normally is, but I had some patches that I was concerned about. So I'm going to give the food in this bin, the feeding that I'm going to do in this bin is going to be a higher moisture content and a little bit more than the other bins. And then I'm going to add a bit more of the cardboard. I did that off camera, but I added a bit more shredded cardboard material and made sure it was wet down really well. And then close this bin up for the next week. I was a bit hesitant with the second vermi bag tote to do a harvest of worms as I was just building the colony, but I figured I would give it a try. I know I have quite a few worms in this bin. I have a lot of juvenile worms, really small worms in this bin for sure. Whenever I harvest this particular tote, I do have to check my gloves because I always find small worms on the gloves, which is great for rebuilding the colony. So I'm going to be very mindful of that as I do put the bait tray in here, and be careful not to take too many mature worms from out of this particular bin. And then that brings me to the breeder bin. So I'm mixing the castings around in here. There were a lot of dry spots still, which was weird because I put quite a bit of water when I started this setup. So I mixed it around really well. And then I put food that had the higher water content on the top. I believe I read that with breeder bins, you want to keep the food towards the top. You don't want to bury it. So I didn't bury any of the food and then set this up for the week. And we'll see what happens next week with the bin. And then last but not least is the one flow through system, the vermi bag mini that I have. And I was very happy to open up the bin and not see anything jumping up and bouncing. So it appears that the numbers of beetles have been greatly reduced. And I attribute that to putting the worm grit not only on the top of the castings themselves, but on the top of the bubble wrap to kind of smother the beetles that I get. This week, the vermi bag mini seemed very dry. So I focused on spraying it down with a good chunk of water. I didn't give it too big of a feeding, but what I did feed it, I did make sure it had a lot of moisture content, and I didn't put anything in the middle. And then closed it up and set this up for the next week. So a very quick update this week on what's been going on with all of my bins. It's not going to be much change for the next few weeks, but I'll still be doing weekly updates. If you've gotten this far with me and you do enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Until next week.